Left to freeze, the wind screamed like it was alive. Zariah dragged her body through the snow. Her armor cracked, her legs numb. Blood dark blue ran down her side, melting the snow beneath her for just a second before it froze again. The storm around her grew stronger with every breath. She was alone. Her squad had left her behind. It was supposed to be a scouting mission. A quiet scan of the frozen moon called Dralis 3, deep in the outer rings. But then the blizzard came fast. A surprise. Attack followed. The enemy machine like drones with no mercy tore through her team. In the chaos, her commander gave the signal. Retreat. Zariah had shouted she was hit. No one turned back. They left her. Now, the storm howled louder, and the cold reached inside her bones. She had lost her weapon. Her communication band was cracked. Her legs wouldn't move. She pulled herself forward, using only her arms, crawling toward what looked like a rocky edge in the distance. But she wasn't sure anymore. Her vision blurred. Her heartbeat slowed. She had never known real fear before. Not until the silence of being forgotten. Her planet taught warriors not to cry. But she wasn't a warrior anymore. She was a shadow in the snow. And the ice wanted to bury her. She stopped crawling. Her body couldn't move. Her fingers, even inside gloves, felt like ice sticks. Her lips were purple. Her breath came out in small, slow clouds. She closed her eyes. The cold was heavy now. Like sleep. She thought of her childhood. Her sister. Her dream of one day flying her own command ship. All of it was fading. Then a sound. Crunch. Footsteps. Not hers. Not drones. Heavy. Slow. Measured. A figure moved through the snow, wrapped in a large, thick coat. Goggles covered the face. Steam rose from his breath. He had a tool in one hand, a scanner, and something that looked like a weapon on his back. He didn't speak. He just knelt beside her. She couldn't talk. She couldn't move. But for the first time, she felt something warm. A hand on her cheek. It was a glove, but it pressed gently. Carefully. Human. She tried to lift her head. Her body failed. Her vision went black. But before she slipped into unconsciousness, she heard a voice, calm and deep. You're not going to die out here. Darkness. Silence. Then warmth. Zirio opened her eyes. She was lying in a small room made of metal and wood. A heater buzzed nearby. Blankets covered her body. Her armor was gone, replaced with clean wrappings. Her wounds had been treated. She turned her head slowly. There, sitting beside her bed, was a human. He looked middle-aged. Tired eyes, a rough beard, wearing an old earth coat patched with many colors. He held a cup of something hot. A kettle hissed softly in the background. He noticed her gaze and gave a small nod. You're awake, he said. She tensed. He raised his hand slowly. Don't worry, I'm not here to harm you. His voice was calm. Plain. I found you 6 kilometers from here. You would have been dead in 10 more minutes. Zariah stared at him. She didn't know what to say. She didn't trust him. Her people told stories about humans cold, violent, dangerous. But this one had carried her out of a storm. The man stood and walked to the small kitchen. He poured some of the hot drink into a metal cup and walked back. He placed it on the table near her bed. It's just broth, he said. You can try later. Then he stepped back and sat down again. Silence. Zariah looked around. No weapons. No cuffs. Just a small outpost buried in snow. And a human who didn't speak much but had saved her life. She looked at the cup. Then at him. Why? She finally asked. Her voice cracked. He blinked. Because you were still breathing. Outside, the storm still raged, but inside, for the first time since the ambush, She felt something strange, not safe, that a human in the storm's area didn't sleep, though she was warm. Even though her body finally stopped shaking, her mind stayed alert. The human had returned to his seat across the room. He didn't watch her. He simply stared into a small screen, reading something, maybe a report or a story. His face was calm. Too calm. She had learned from a young age to watch expressions, to study movement, but he gave her nothing, not fear, not anger, not lies, only silence. Her arm moved slowly under the blanket. It still hurt, but she could feel her fingers again. She had thought frostbite would take them. Her training said that was a death sentence. But now, she was alive, because of him. A human. Zariah studied the room again. It was small, about the size of a landing pod. Tools hung on the wall. A half-repaired drone sat in the corner. There were books, too. Real ones, made of paper. That was rare. The floor was warm metal. The walls were thick. She could feel the hum of a thermal generator under the ground. It wasn't military. It was personal. Old. You're lucky I found you, the human said without looking at her. His voice was soft, deep. Storm like that, even my locator almost failed. Zariah stayed quiet. You were crawling toward a cliff, he continued. Another few meters, and he didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Who are you? She asked, her voice rough. The human looked up for the first time. Name's Eli, he said. Eli Wren, civilian scientist. Biothermal research. Got stuck here after my transport froze out last cycle. She blinked. Alone? He smiled faintly. Not by choice. Zariah frowned. No backup. No crew. No weapons near him. Just a human. Stuck in a place he didn't belong, yet he had saved. Her. Carried her 6 kilometers through a storm that could kill in minutes. Why? You were from the Zarn unit, right? Eli asked suddenly. Her eyes narrowed. How do you know that? He pointed at a cracked cum chip sitting on a table nearby. Found it near you. ID was still blinking. Zariah said nothing. They left you, he added. Didn't even try to recover the wounded. That's not like them. That wasn't your business, she replied coldly. He nodded once, as if agreeing. You're right, but I made it mine anyway. The silence returned. Zariah's breathing slowed. Her body still hurt. Her mind raced. But deep down, something in her shifted. This man, this human, had no reason to help her. He didn't even know her name. Her species and his had never been allies, but he still brought her in. Still gave her heat. Still offered food and safety, and not once had he asked for anything in return. I've heard things about your kind, she said suddenly. Eli raised an eyebrow. They say humans fight everything. That you burn first, talk later. That you can't be trusted. He chuckled softly. That's fair. A lot of humans do live that way. She stared at him. Are you one of them? He paused. Then looked her directly in the eyes. No, I'm just trying to stay warm and not die out here. Zariah lowered her head. The blanket around her shoulders felt heavier now. Not because of the cold, but because of everything she thought she knew. This human had ruined it, and she didn't know if that was good or bad. Outside, the wind slammed against the walls like claws on steel. But inside, something had started to melt. Not ice. Learning the heat the next morning, Zariah sat near the heater, wrapped in the thick blanket Eli had given her. Her legs were still weak, but she could feel them again. Her fingers moved slowly, stretching and curling. It wasn't just the heat keeping her alive now. It was the quiet, not the stillness. The strange calm that this place offered. Eli moved through the small outpost like someone who had done it all 100 times. He boiled water. He poured a thick powder into metal mugs and stirred. Then he handed one to her without saying a word. Zariah sniffed it. Warm, earthy, a bit. Sharp. She took a sip. It wasn't bad. Eli sat back in his chair, watching the screen again. A soft blue glow touched his face. What is that? Zariah asked, her voice low. Temperature scan, he replied. The storm's finally weakening. Might be safe to check the ridge tomorrow. She nodded slowly. Then, after a pause, she said, Thank you. He looked surprised. For the tea? For saving my life. He gave a soft smile. Wasn't really a choice, he said. You were out there. Dying. I was in here. Warm. Didn't seem right. Zariah tilted her head. That's not how. Soldiers think? I'm not a soldier. She leaned back and stared at the ceiling. The metal above her had scratches. Marks. Maybe from tools. Maybe from someone trying to pass the time. You don't hate me? She asked suddenly. Eli didn't look up. Should I? I'm not human. That's obvious. I'm not from your side. Neither am I. I'm from the side that believes in fire, food, and sleep. She blinked. That was the first time she heard a human joke that didn't sound like a threat. Later, when Eli worked on fixing a broken drone, Zariah watched carefully. He used basic tools, his hands steady. The drone sparked now and then. He didn't flinch. You're not scared of me? She asked. Eli didn't stop working. You're wrapped in a blanket and barely standing. I could still hurt you. He glanced at her. You won't. Her eyes narrowed. How do you know? He smiled softly. Because people who want to hurt others don't say it out loud first. Zariah was quiet after that. She stared at the heater, watching the slow swirl of steam rising from her mug. She had never felt this before. Not on her planet. Not in training. Not in war. Not even in peace talks. Warmth that didn't ask for anything. That night, she sat by the tiny window. Outside. The snow had slowed. A pale moon hung low over the hills. Wind still moved through the trees, but the screens were gone. She heard footsteps behind her. Eli placed a folded piece of clothing beside her. Fresh thermal suit. He said, It's not your size, but it'll help. She touched the fabric. It was thick, real. Why do you keep helping me? She asked again. Eli hesitated, then said, Because I remember what it's like to be cold and alone. Zariah looked up at him. And for the first time, she believed him. The ice between them. Zariah stood slowly, her legs shaky but stronger than yesterday. She had changed into the thermal suit Eli gave her. It was big on her small frame, but it kept her warm. That was all that mattered. She walked carefully to the workbench where Eli was adjusting a power coil. He didn't look up. Feeling better? He asked. She nodded. He kept working. She stayed silent for a long moment. Then she asked, How long have you been alone here? Eli didn't. Stopped turning his wrench. 74 days? Maybe more. No rescue? Signal's weak out here. Weather blocks half the satellites. I keep trying. Why didn't you leave when the storm started? He smiled faintly. I wanted to finish my research, and maybe I got used to being alone. Zariah frowned. She couldn't imagine wanting. This silence, isolation, cold walls and colder nights. But something in his voice didn't sound like weakness. It sounded like choice. Later, she stood near the heater while Eli checked the food stock. You don't ask many questions, she said. He shrugged. I've seen war. I know not everyone wants to talk about it. She looked at him carefully. You were in a war? He nodded. A long one, on a planet much hotter than this. Lost people I cared about. What happened? I got tired of watching friends die, so I walked away. Zariah felt a strange pain in her chest. She didn't know why. She sat down beside the small table, folding her hands. You know, on my world, she said, we're taught humans can't feel. Eli raised an eyebrow. No feelings at all? Only anger, hunger, greed. You take what you want, he chuckled. And what do your people do? We survive. We don't waste time with weakness. Eli looked at her carefully. Do you think kindness is weakness? She didn't answer. He leaned forward. You're alive because someone chose kindness over logic. If that's weakness, maybe the galaxy needs more of it. Zariah turned away. Something was changing inside her, and she didn't like it. Or maybe she did, and that was the problem. She'd never felt safe before. Not really. And now, in the middle of nowhere, with a species she was told to fear, she felt safe. That night, she had a nightmare. The cold crept into her bones again. Her squad stood above her, faceless, walking away. She screamed their names, but her voice turned to ice. The snow buried her. Her limbs froze. Her heart stopped, and then a hand, warm, pulling her up. She woke with a jolt, sweat on her face. The room was dark, except for a soft red light near the floor. The storm outside had returned, gentler but constant. She looked across the room. Eli sat in his chair, asleep, his head tilted forward. A blanket half covered his chest. He looked human, not the monster she was raised to fear, just a tired man who didn't want to be alone. Zariah pulled her own blanket tighter. She didn't understand this feeling, but she knew one thing. The ice inside her was starting to break. Signals and warnings. The next day, the wind slowed. For the first time in many days, the sun broke through the clouds. The snow outside still looked deadly, but the light made it feel less like a prison. Eli stood by the transmitter tower outside, adjusting the signal array. Zariah stood at the window, watching him. She still didn't fully trust him, but she no longer feared him. That was new. When Eli returned, his cheeks were red from the cold. I boosted the signal, he said, removing his coat. Maybe someone will hear it now. Zariah tilted her head. You want to leave? I want to know if I still matter, he said softly. That someone out there remembers I exist. She lowered her gaze. It was a feeling she knew too well. That afternoon, the scanner blinked for the first time in days. A soft beep. Eli rushed to it. Zariah followed, still moving slow but stronger now. Signal ping, Eli said. It's far, very far, but it's real. Not a drone, not a storm echo. A ship? He nodded slowly. Possibly. Zariah stepped back. If a ship came, what would happen? Would it be hers? Would they recognize her? Would they take her back? Would they take him? Would they separate them? Eli looked over his shoulder. You okay? I don't know, she answered. That night, Zariah sat alone. Wind was soft now. The air inside the cabin smelled of warm tea and old metal. She touched the scanner herself, staring at the little blinking light. Hope, but also fear. I was trained to fight humans, she whispered to herself. But Eli hadn't fought her. He gave her food. He gave her warmth. He gave her a second chance. And now, maybe. He gave her confusion. She didn't know who the enemy was anymore. Later, Eli joined her at the window. If your people come, he said, will they take you back? I don't know, she replied. They left me. He nodded. When rescue comes, the morning came too fast. Zariah woke to the sound of an alert short, sharp and steady. She sat up quickly. Eli was already at the scanner. It's close now, he said, his voice tense. Whoever they are, they'll be here in under an hour. Zariah felt her chest tighten. Her fingers curled around the blanket. She wasn't ready. Eli moved calmly, but his face was tight. He packed small supplies into a bag, data drives, research logs, food rations. Zariah stood behind him. You think they'll take me? I don't know, he said. Depends who they are. Human? Zarn? Neutral? Pirates? Can't tell from the signal. You said it wasn't military. It's not, he confirmed. Small, fast. Civilian or scout ship, maybe. But that doesn't mean safe. They prepared quietly. No big speeches. No drama. Just careful steps. Like two people who knew life didn't give many second chances. Eli gave her an emergency command. If we get separated, hit the red button. Zariah slipped it over her wrist. I still don't trust Easy. Good, he said. That's why you're still alive. 30 minutes later, the ship appeared. A long shadow through the snow. Sleek. Silent. Alien. It hovered above the clearing. No lights. No insignia. Just cold metal and a growing silence. Then a ramp opened. Eli glanced at Zariah. You don't have to go, he said. I do, she replied. But I don't know if I want to. Together, they stepped outside. The wind was gentle, but every step felt heavier than the last. 3 figures walked down the ramp, 2 in black suits. One in red. Zariah's eyes narrowed. XARN. Her people. The one in red stepped forward. Zariah Khan, you survived. Zariah stayed silent. We received your ID pulse. We assumed you were dead. You left me to die, she said coldly. That was protocol, the leader replied. Too many wounded. We made hard choices. Eli took a step forward. She almost died. The leader looked at him. And who are you? Someone who didn't follow protocol. There was tension now. Real tension. The kind that couldn't be broken by guns or orders. Only truth. We can take her from here. The Zarn officer said. Eli looked at Zariah. Zariah looked at the ship. Her heart pounded. Will I be punished? She asked. The officer's voice was flat. You're a survivor. That's all that matters. She turned to Eli. He didn't say anything. He just looked at her. Like he had when she first opened her eyes in the storm. No pressure. No demand. Just choice. Zariah stepped forward. Then stopped. She turned back to Eli. And said 3 simple words. Don't forget me. Eli nodded. I won't. She stepped onto the ramp. The ship swallowed her in cold light. And for the first time since the storm began. Eli was alone again. The last signal, the ship vanished into the sky without a sound. Eli stood in the snow, staring at the empty clouds above. The wind had stopped. The storm was finally gone. And so was she. The cabin felt colder that night. The heater still worked. The lights still glowed. But something was missing. The second blanket. The quiet footsteps. The cautious voice asking, what is this? Zariah had brought more than a broken body into his shelter. She had brought life. Eli sat alone at the table, his mug steaming in silence. He opened the scanner. The screen was blank now, no blips, no warnings. Just quiet. He pressed a button and started recording. Log 75. Storms have cleared. Food levels normal. Generator stable. He hesitated. Then added softly, "She's gone. Azarn took her. Didn't even thank me." A pause. I didn't need them to. He stood and opened the cabinet. Inside was the cumband he had given her. She'd left it on the table before leaving. Not forgotten. Left. Like a message. He picked it up. Held it for a long time, then placed it next to his pillow. Days passed. Then a week. The signal tower blinked. Again. Faint. One blip. Then another. That third. Short. Repeating. Not a call for help. Not a distress signal. Just 3 pulses. Eli stared at the screen. He entered the old cum code. 1 line of text. Peered. Just a name. Zariah. He smiled. No message. No words. Just the name. Just the signal. Enough to know she was alive. Enough to know she remembered. Outside, the wind moved gently through the trees. Inside, Eli placed a new mark on the wall next to the others. A small line. A quiet reminder. She was real. She lived. Maybe, just maybe, he did too.